Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. This is your Eastern Conference Finals Game 6 Best Bets episode. We'll give you best bets on Celtics versus Heat, the series that refuses to die going into the weekend. I will give you a little bit of like a look ahead towards the Game 7, if indeed that occurs, as the Miami Heat lead the Celtics 3-2 after the Boston Celtics have staved off elimination twice to force a Game 6 in Miami. Everything we talk about in today's show can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all the best picks, find where the money's coming in on, where the movement has been. You can track line movement to see exactly where those lines have moved. You can check out our daily show, Green Dot Daily, featuring all three of the panelists on today's show. You can catch all sorts of podcasts throughout the offseason. You know, as we head through the NBA Finals and the NBA Draft, free agency, all through the offseason, we'll be hitting you up with buckets. Just check it out on the Action Network app. Join me on today's show, Sean Little from MSG Networks. You can catch him on Twitter at Chicago Flow. You can catch Brandon Anderson on Twitter at Wheaton Brando. Brandon has been absolutely lights out in the conference finals. Brandon's just been on target with just about everything. He has hit over and over and over and over and over again. Brandon, would you say, like, I think you did great. I don't think you've had a bad round. You just had a great playoff so far.
I don't feel like the first round was great. I don't know if it was bad necessarily, but I think you and I both got started a little slowly on the first round. I appreciate the kind words. Just before we came on recording, I looked back at my notes from the last game. I had one more bet that I cut because I believe, Sean, how many did I give out? 7 on our podcast last time?
Yeah, it was about a little 7-piece.
So here's the opposite of a victory lap. Here's a bet I did not make that I cut because it was too long. Jason Tatum was 65-1 to lead the series in assists. I liked it. He was getting more of the ball. He was getting more assists. He had 11 last night. He was 10 behind Smart. He's now 1 behind. He is 2-1, and I left it on the cutting floor. Even when I hit something, I'm sick. I'm sick about this one. This is the last thing I saw right before coming on here today. So
I'm sorry.
I'm ready to give out some winners.
You just said that was not a victory lap. What you did was you just gave a victory lap on something you didn't even give the public.
No, it's not a victory lap.
Victory lap on something you didn't even share with the listeners.
No, it's not a victory lap. I did not give that out to anyone. I did not bet it myself. I ran the victory lap backwards. I want to give out winners.
All right. Let's get into it. So in Game 6 on Saturday in Miami, the Boston Celtics are 3-point favorites again. Enough of that nonsense. The Heat were favored up 3-0 for a brief millisecond, back to 3-point favorites. Totals down to 210.5 is open to 13.5. We'll go around the table, give best bets, then we'll give the cap. Sean Little, what's your best bet for Celtics Heat Game 6?
Miami Heat first half plus 1.5 minus 110 FanDuel Sportsbook.
My best bet for Game 6 is going to be the under 210.5. I'm keeping it simple and staying the fuck away from any side in the series. Get me out of the series as quickly as possible. I love betting sides, and I can't bet any in the series. We'll talk about why. Brandon Anderson, though, not shy. He's got a handful of bets for you. Brandon Anderson, what do you got for the Game 6?
I got to bring a handful now after I found that stupid Tatum bet. I'm similar to Sean here, but I'm going second half. Give me the Heat second half just to win outright. Plus 123 on that. Give me Jason Tatum over 3.5 turnovers. And then this is the one that I talked myself into. This is the last minute ad today. I got a series leader for you because I didn't do the last one. So I'm doing one now. Jimmy Butler, series points leader, is plus 550. I'll take that one. And because we're talking Heat and we're talking Celtics, I had to add one more. Nikola Jokic. That's right. He ain't playing at all right now. Give me Jokic finals MVP minus 160. I'll tell you why this is the time to bet it.
All right. So let's start. Let's do mine first, and then we'll go to your head-to-head. That makes the most sense to me. Look, this is a trend play. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to apologize for playing a trend. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to apologize for playing a trend. I think this trend is valuable. Game 6s have been good under spots. We discovered this a couple of years ago on buckets, and it's something that we've kept in mind. Since 2003, Game 6s are 196, 142, and 12 to the under. That is 58%. Since 2018, so the last 5 seasons, we get to 42, 36, and 2. At that is 50, or I'm sorry, yeah, 42, 36, and 2. That's at a little over 53%. On the unders. So like recent trend, if you take out 2020 with all the craziness of the bubble, it gets even stronger. We have a number of other opportunities here in Game 6s this season, in this postseason, just this year. The under is 10-4 in game sixes. That is 71.4%. Look, I had the over going head to head against Sean on Green Out Daily. First half looked okay, but the Celtics pretty much just packed it in, and then that was pretty much it. So I think that part of this is I think that there's probably a game in this series, and I'm not saying it's due. I'm just saying that there's a number of ways that we get here. The Celtics don't hit threes, and then this goes under. The Heat, once again, have an offensive performance like they did in game 5. This goes under. Both teams actually struggle for once, and we have to figure out what the series is like if there's not shooting variance. Because like the shooting variance in this series, and for the Celtics in particular, is nuts. Like, that's why I can't bet aside. Because you're basically asking me, are they going to hit threes? Now, like, every game is essentially about that in the modern NBA, right? And if it's a good team versus a bad team, I could be like, well, they're more likely to hit threes because they have better shooters. That's not this. Not this at all. It's pretty random. Is Caleb Martin going to go 9 of 10 from 3? Could happen. I could see it. Is Marcus Smart going to hit 5 of 6? Totally possible. There are one thing I wish that we could get was a same game parlay on total threes hit, right? Because like that would be absolutely beautiful. I don't even mind if they gave us alternates, because I would be hitting the alternates on it. Like, that's fine. Juice it. That's fine. It would just make it, because it's so highly correlated in this series. I can't play aside because I cannot count on the 3-point performance from either of these teams. The Celtics are so dependent on it. It's oxygen for them. They die without it. Like, if the Celtics do not hit 10 threes, they're going to lose this game. Their record when they don't hit 12 is miserable in these playoffs. So I don't find any way to take a side on this. I'm going to stick with the under. Brandon, am I okay on the under? This is okay bet.
I like the under. I actually considered it. I don't do a lot of totals, and I'm kind of staying away from a total here for the same reason that you're not playing a side, which is why can't they just both make threes, or why won't they both miss threes? I don't really know what's going to happen with the threes. I do think it's a little reductive to do only the shot variance thing for the series. I know that's not what you're saying, but like there's turnover margin that's swung back in Boston's favor. Its volume of 3-point attempts has swung in Boston's favor. Those are things that are repeatable, that are not just shot variance. But yeah, the game 6 trend has been very strong toward unders. Late in the series, unders. Miami certainly is really struggling to score lately, and Boston's probably not going to keep shooting 40% every time. So it definitely is it's the total that I would take if I was going to play one, and it was close to being on my list. But I can only give out 700 bets at a time.
All right. It's really funny that I want no part of this, and you keep stacking them on. For somebody that I know does not enjoy this series.
I kind of like it now. I did not enjoy it early. I did not enjoy Miami, but it's gotten fun. I think because I'm winning. So winning is fun.
I'm always making it fun. Sean, let's start with you. Why do you want first half here on the Heat?
Yeah, Miami Heat first half +1.5, -110. This is going to be the desperation spot. Now, listen, me, Matt, and Brandon have been talking about how we don't know what's going to happen in this series. Sides are impossible to take because the variance and just we don't know what Boston Celtics team is going to show up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we got to game 4 and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart brought up the don't let us get one thing, I did think that was a bit telling that they were at least weren't going to fold up and easily go away. They end up winning game 4. Game 5, I couldn't lay the 8.5 it got to, but I was pretty confident the Boston Celtics were going to get that game at home and push game 6. This is the game that I am not exactly sure what is going to happen, who's going to step up. We just talked about it being the Derek White game in the last game in Boston in game 5. Game 6, there's a lot of question marks. I do have confidence that the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler are going to show up in the first half, at the very least at home. They absolutely have to. That game 5, Boston stamped it very, very early. A dream start. Jason Tatum, 5 from 8 from the floor, got him going. Derek White was knocking down everything. Marcus Smart was hitting things. It was pretty wrapped up early. If you like to believe that or not, that game was stamped in the first 5 or 6 minutes of it. I believe Miami's going to come out at home and try to do the same thing. Now, they won the first half in game 2 and 3, and believe it or not, on the over side. So we're worried about Miami and their offense. They've been up and down. Jimmy Butler only had 10 field goal attempts. He's averaging 10 field goal attempts and a half in these playoffs. He only had 10 overall in game 5. I expect him to come out and get rolling. But the Miami Heat, number 1 team to the over in the first half at home this year, 29-18-3, number 1 in the NBA. I expect them to come out, put some points on the board. I expect Jimmy Butler to get the guys rolling. The Gabe Vincent thing is obviously massive, purely on the fact that they weren't a efficient scoring team throughout the season. They've obviously turned that on in the playoffs, but they need the guys that have stepped up. Gabe is one of those guys. I think they show up here at least in the first 24 minutes. I'm not sure what's going to happen overall in the game, but I do like Jimmy Butler to get the guys going for at least the first half at home. I'll take the +1.5, and I'm excited to hear what BA has for the second half as well.
All right, Brandon, give me the cap on the second half.
Yeah, I think the Vincent thing was really overlooked. I actually think he's really valuable defensively for them in their zone, at the top of the zone, in the pick and roll coverage. So I definitely want to see if he's going to play.
Enough for the over, though. Sorry, I'm just mad. Go ahead.
I definitely want to see if he's going to play. If he doesn't, a late ad from last game, this is not posted yet, but Kyle Lowry over 1.5 turnovers. If Vincent is out again, he's had 4 turnovers each of the last 2 games. So definitely play that if Vincent is out. Yeah, I don't know that I want to side here. I felt pretty good about game 4, game 5. I know already what I will think about game 7. I do not know what I think about game 6. The fact that I'm not playing a side here should tell you that. I think if you want to bet a side, it's either Miami money line or it's Celtics series. Those are the ways to play a side on the game. If you think Boston wins the game, don't bet the cover, bet the series. Game 7 in Boston. Matt's going to tell you all, like, we all know how the home game 7 goes. So either Miami now or Boston later, I think is the way to go. I think your case is pretty compelling, Sean, for first half. I just don't know that I think that that's this Heat team. I think this Heat team is a second half team. And I think Boston is a pull up in the second half sort of team. So Miami has won 4 of the 5 second halves in the series straight up. They lost one big. That was game 4 when Boston had the huge second half push and won by 23. But otherwise, they're plus 14, 2, 11, and 4, Miami in the second half. That's been their thing. This whole, not just this year, but the whole like 4-year Miami run that we've been on. First half, second half splits from the bubble. -3 net in the first half, plus 7.5 second half team. In 2022, last year, they were basically even in the first half, plus 7 second half. This year, slight negative first half, plus 10 and better in the second half. So this is a team that makes a push. And basically, Sean, I agree with you. This is game 7 for Miami. They know they got to get this one. They could go back to Boston. We'll get there. They could go and get the job done there because Boston is losing at home in these playoffs. But they know this is the one that they want to get. There's a reason that this line is so tight. There's a reason that none of us are picking a side because it's very coin flippy. I think the push comes. I just think the push comes in the second half because that's what Miami profile has been for many years now. And I think it's possible Boston's shots are falling and they're forcing their turnovers and take care of the ball. And suddenly Boston gets up by 10 or 15 and it's halftime. And the Celtics kind of get that look in their eye like, we gotcha. 0-3, we got the comeback, baby. We got this. We're going back home. We're ready. We got this series. We've seen Boston do that before. And I just think, regardless of first half script, Miami has to empty the tank in the second half. They have to leave everything, play Jimmy like all 24 minutes, Bam all 24. There is no white flag. They're doing everything they can second half to make the push. I don't know how it starts out. I just know that I trust them the second half to go all the way. So that's why I like the second half plus 123 to win outright.
See, I think the feeling coming in for Miami is going to be we cannot, absolutely not get to half and be down 10, 11 points. We just don't have the firepower to come back and have to deal with the Boston Celtics in that case. In short, I think, BA, you see it going more as game 1 did. Boston came out, stamped it, and then Miami took off in the second half, got the W. I see it more as a game 3 where they're back at home, they're back in Miami, and they come out like gangbusters and try to get rolling early and make sure they're in it because the onslaught that the Boston Celtics brought early in that game 5 was impactful. It was very impactful. That the confidence, everything about that got them rolling to the point where I'm a massive Jimmy Butler guy. Dude, bobbleheads up behind me. If you're watching the video, that's Jimmy Butler in a Bulls jersey on the bobblehead on my mantle. I'm a huge Jimmy Butler guy. I think they took it out of him a little bit last night. He was looking at it like I don't see a way back for us, and he kind of came off the gas pedal, and he's going to try to go home and get rolling early, and I think they do so. I didn't want to. Did you guys see how I just went around calling Jimmy Butler that he quit on the game? I didn't want to say that. The Q word. I went as far around the Q word as I could. But it looked like Jimmy Butler packed it in a little bit, and I believe a lot of it had to do with how polished and the effort that the Boston Celtics were bringing early in the game, and it lasted throughout.
Look, no, I mean, look, this series is starting to look a little bit like some of those, not this round, but those Lakers series. We didn't think LeBron quit on games. We think LeBron smartly decided, you know what? This game 5 on the road is really not our thing. Go ahead, enjoy your win. We got you when we come back home to LA. We saw him do that against the Warriors and the Grizzlies. I think that's all Jimmy Butler is doing. He's load managing in game, waiting for the spot, and that wasn't the spot. You could tell right away in game 5.
I agree. Tenfold.
In games in which, in the last 2 postseasons, between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat, in which the Heat have trailed at the half, they have won the second half. Counting this now. 1, 2, 3, 4. They are 5-0-1 in the second half. So if they are down at the half versus the Boston Celtics in the second half on ATS, second half ATS, they are 5-0-1.
Yeah, I think I like, just in my head, the second half is a little bit more matchup proof, I think is why I'm playing it that way, Sean, because I think you're right that Miami should come out first half, like giving everything they have. I just don't know if they have anything left to give. Like they might just be out of bodies at this point. Boston might actually have kind of solved this thing to figure it out. I don't think they want to let Boston get up by 10, certainly, but Boston just might do that anyway. I think why I like the Miami second half play is if they do that, Miami is not going to fold. Miami is not going to go Philly on us and just go away. Like they're going to make a push. Or if Miami gets ahead, now I think Boston starts to panic. And it's like, oh no, it's happening again after our push. And maybe Miami kind of builds on it. So I think regardless of what the first half looked like, I'm still going to like the Miami push to come later. Whereas I just don't know if Boston comes out looking like they have the last couple of games.
Last point, Matt, and with the game that's the points are going to be coming at a premium, especially in the first 24 minutes back at home in Miami. I'll take the extra 1.5 in a spot where I think Miami will show up on a total that's plummeting.
This is such
I like that.
Such a tough.
Matt, Saturday night South Beach coming off a Friday night. How do you feel about that with your under?
Not in a game 6 in the conference. Not well. Maybe.
I don't know, man. We saw Jason Tatum in a game 5 last round. That seemed pretty important.
Yeah, you and I will check with various people on that. All right. So, Brandon, you've got. Do you want to give the Tatum cap?
Yeah, right. Tatum cap is pretty straightforward. I mean, look, this is part of why I mentioned the Tatum assist thing earlier on. It just feels to me like the ball is in Tatum's hands a lot more the last couple of games. We are seeing. Notably, I'm not giving out old vase hand here. Jaylen Brown's only had 1 turnover each of the last 2 games. Did he learn how to dribble? No, they're just not giving him the ball as much anymore. Jaylen Brown is just not quite as involved. Marcus Smart's assists and potential assists dropped a lot. Tatum did this last year too. His assists went up late in the series. He just started doing more and more in the series because he had to, because he's the best player and this is what you're supposed to do. And he's just got more of the ball. But with what's the Spider-Man line? With great responsibility comes great turnovers. Is that the line? That's the angle here. Tatum is playing well. This is not a Tatum's going to have a bad game take, though it certainly works if he does. But he's had over 3.5 turnovers for the 5 games this series. He was over in 4 of the 7 games last year. So 80% hit rate this series, 67% between the 2 years. He's averaging 4.5 turnovers a game against Miami these two series. So this is just I think Tatum, if he has a good game, he's going to have even more of the ball and probably turn it over. If he has a bad game, he turns it over anyway. So this is kind of, I'm not playing Jalen anymore. This is to point out that it's gotten more of a Tatum series instead, but over 3.5 turnovers for him.
Butler series points leader feels pretty obvious, but go ahead and hit us with that.
Yeah, so Butler is behind Tatum right now by 11 points. And honestly, I don't think this is going to hit because Butler just is not looking right. Like he had 35 in game one, but that was off of, I believe, 4 days off. And he just has not been a big scorer since then. And we saw that last round. So at this point, I have to conclude most likely that ankle is not right. Butler is not able to score like he was in the first round. That's the most likely thing. And if so, we're probably headed towards Celtics in 7 if that's the case, because Jimmy Butler has to play the hero. But we're only 11 back. Tatum has had games with 21 in game 5. He had 14 in game 3. Butler had last year against Boston. He had a 35, a 41, and a 47, especially I think 2 of those were late in the series, the last 2 games. He had that 35 in game 1 against Milwaukee first round. He had 35, 42, 56. This to me is kind of like a smart way to hedge Miami, because if Miami wins this game, couldn't it just be because Butler had the legacy game when he came out and dropped like 35 and Tatum had 22, 23 points? Pretty normal night for him. Butler comes back here. 11 back is just not that much. Plus 550 is the number we're getting. So
it's not exactly a Miami like money line bet. It's not a Miami money line bet though.
No, yeah, certainly. If you don't think Miami is alive anymore in the series, you shouldn't play this bet. If you think it's all Boston, like Tatum has outscored. We need Butler to outscore Tatum by 11, and he has not done that any of the games this series. I believe Tatum has outscored Butler in each of the last 4, if I remember right. So yeah, it's not. You're right. It's not a Miami play. It's a bet on variance and Butler being close enough. And Tatum's had some huge shooting nights, and he has had some like 1 3-point made nights. So is this just me chasing the 65-1 that I didn't give out last time on these series leaders? Probably just a little bit, but I think Butler is close enough. I probably would put this like plus 250 or 300. So I'll play it at plus 550.
Sean, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think this is this is the Miami Heat money line bet essentially in this spot. I don't want to give excuses for Jimmy. We just talked about it. I mean, his usage percentage in the game last time was only 20%. It was behind quite a few people on the roster overall. I would have to believe in the Miami Heat to get the win in game 6 to back this play. If you do believe that, yeah, I would go ahead and go with BA and rock with the spot.
All right, we'll hit your Jokic one in a minute. I want to go ahead. We won't have an episode. Maybe we might have an episode. We'll see if we get game 7 episode up. But I want to go ahead and just like, Brandon. Actually, I want to say this: don't bet game 7 home blind. Don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, if we go back through, so the history of this is a little bit more complicated than we kind of make it look like. So since 2003, okay, not including the bubble season, home teams in the game 7 are 42 and 19. That's 70%, 69%. They're 54% against the spread. That's awesome. That's great. Since 2014-15, but I start that because it's like the start of the Warriors era. 14 and 10, still good. 58%, pretty big drop off, but still good, right? We get to 2018 on, not including the bubble, 5 and 6. Like there has been a trend basically of game 7, home team, lock it in, of that declining over the span of time. And some of that can be noise, right? Like this is a sample size question. Over the larger sample, the home teams have won consistently at home. If we go back through, however, and we look at the history of these and where they've been, we do kind of wind up with like a little bit of a different answer. Like 14 and 10 at 58% is still strong since 2014. or 2015, I'm sorry. But that's still not as strong as it was. And as we kind of like go through the splits, there has been a little bit of a reversal. So like what I'm basically telling you is like, it's not just like, oh yeah, we're hammering the Celtics. Even if they win 3 straight, I'm not there.
Also, if Boston wins game 6 by 6, 7, 8 points in pretty dominant fashion, we're going to get a preposterous number in game 7 as well. It's going to be like minus 10 and a half, 11 points.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, also notable since 2015, 9 and 15 against the spread home teams in game 7. That's
Can I make the counter argument?
Sure, hit it.
So I'm looking at my numbers that I had from last round because, hey, it's another game 7 for Boston. So we got the numbers handy. I think that your game 7 trends are absolutely in play, but Boston game 7s have been a different animal. Boston all time in game 7 is now 27-9. Okay. I don't see the number here, but I believe Boston at home is 22-5 in game 7s all time. It's like 81% win rate. It has been one of the most reliable trends in NBA history. So maybe all the other 75 years don't matter. Why do we
care about that with this team? Like that, I don't care about how they.
Okay, great. I'm glad you asked, because Boston's last 6 series that they've won after the first round, 5 of the 6 have been won in game 7. That was part of the cap coming into the series on why I like the Heat going long in the series. This team screws around, but shows up in game 7. This core shows up and wins in game 7. So I think it is relevant.
5-1 all time with Jason Tatum in a game 7.
Pretty good.
2018 versus that Bucks team. I'm trying to remember. Oh, that was kid. That doesn't count. That's kid. Lost.
I mean, we're going to go through and throw out the ones you don't think that counts. Then what are we doing here?
Well, I just want to put context on it, Brandon.
Okay.
They're 5-1. 2018, we've got the Bucks. 2018, they lose the Cavaliers. LeBron, no problem there. Celtics, Raptors in 2020. That's the bubble. 2021 Bucks, or that's 2022 Bucks, no mid. And then Jimmy Butler last year on the Jimmy Butler misses at the buzzer. Okay.
And then Philly obviously this year.
Yeah, but that's Joel. It doesn't count. It's Joel, Doc, and James. Come on now. We both know. We both know on that one. So like I hear you. I hear you. Like Tatum's like 5-1's a strong record. I'm not saying I want Miami in game 7. Not saying that. I'm just saying I don't really know what to make of that as it comes. Okay. You were on Celtics Are Live here. You've made a lot of noise about that, and you very rightfully today you've been tweeting about like, hey guys, now it's swinging too far the other way. I am a little bit curious about the Celtics about the Jokic bet. To explain to me Jokic minus 160 Finals MVP.
So I'm gonna like Denver in the finals. Spoiler alert. If it's against the Heat, we've already talked a little bit about that possible matchup. Matt, you've talked about Jokic against Bam has just not been a good opponent for Bam historically. And it's gotten even worse over the last 4 days because now the Heat had to play 2 more games and possibly another one. So it's possible if it's Denver and Miami that we not only get the Denver and Miami matchup we liked anyway, but we might get the Miami coming off of game 7 if it gets there as well. Even if it doesn't, game 6, like they lost a week of rest basically. And that clearly matters with Jimmy Butler right now. And look, they're missing like half of their guys right now. So the attrition that they've taken on, the Vincent injury, Lowry injury possibly, Hero hasn't gotten ready yet. Like the Heat's odds are not the same as they were 4 days ago. They're not just going to suddenly beat Boston now and then it's just the same as it always was. Denver is a better favorite against Miami now. Denver is a better favorite against Boston because if we get there, Boston will have come off of back-to-back game 7s. We know all the game 7 to game 1 trends. We got a back-to-back here. We have a Boston exhausted team in game 1. They will be at home, but they don't really do well at home. They're 5-5 at home. So if you get the off game 7 thing, we just saw them blow game 1 this series. We saw them blow game 1 last series. Denver steals game 1. Now you got home court. In the finals, there's one game all series that has only 1 day of rest before the game instead of 2. It's game 4. If it's against Boston, that is a game in Denver, in elevation, for, again, a team that has not had any break since the playoffs started because they played with their meat against Atlanta and Philly and Miami. So I think schedule-wise, like Matt, if this was regular season, we would be looking at game 1 and game 4 as schedule losses for Boston. Like we would be playing Denver blind on a schedule spot if this was a regular season. I think that has to come into play. And I just kind of like Denver against Boston anyway. So why now for Jokic MVP? It's minus 160. The why now is right now, Miami is still the series favorite. Miami is still the team most likely to come out because they still get 2 chances to win one, and they're still more likely to do that in game 6 if it's going to happen. If Miami wins the series, and they're more likely to do that in game 6, if they do that, Jokic goes from minus 160 to what? Minus 250? So like a long number, minus 300. It wouldn't surprise me. We're getting odds that are going to quickly move past anywhere we can get this right now. If Miami loses game 6, like if you think Miami is dead, don't bet this right now. If you think Miami is cooked, do not bet it because the number is dropping. And if it gets to Boston in the finals, we're going to get Jokic at a plus number because Denver will be the underdog, or we're going to get him like around coin flippy or something like that. But the math tells us, the numbers tell us that Miami is still the favorite to win the series. That math is gone after game 6. Miami is not the favorite of anything ever again the rest of the season after game 6 if they don't win it. So that to me is why this is the moment to invest in Denver while you get the number, because now it's risky. Again, if you think it's all Boston and Miami's just cooked, this is not your moment. Then you got to wait for Boston to keep on winning and actually get out of the series. But the moment that Miami clinches the series, all the Denver value is gone forever, and we lose it.
If you're like me and you're uncertain of who wins the series, I would say that this is like, I will bet this. I will not bet the full amount that I plan on betting on Jokic finals.
Yeah, and that's fair too. I think if you like the position and you agree that you're going to like the position, but you're not sure how much or not sure on the series, I agree. That's a good way to do it, is put like a portion of the stake you'll want to have in and then add more later, because your later might come at a much better price if it's Boston. And I don't blame you if you think it's Boston.
Yeah, to give a little context, when Miami was up 3-0, Jokic to win finals MVP was minus 220. So it'll be right around that 250 number BA mentioned.
And don't forget, Jokic hadn't clinched yet either. So that was part of that price as well.
Yeah, I would it's been really funny seeing Twitter folks that don't do the gambling stuff. Like they were like, there's no way that the Celtics are going to be favored versus the Nuggets. And I was like,
yeah,
they are.
Like, all you got to do, like, this is not even an opinion thing, guys. All you got to do is literally look at the numbers on a screen. That's all you got to do. Like, literally the movement tells you. And like, I will just say, like, I have confirmed with the bookmaker, like they're going to be not heavy. I will say this. I have asked 2 bookmakers for a headline. They are not going to want Denver money. That's like, they're already anticipating, like, we're going to have to make them dogs. We are not going to want that money. We're going to get hit. Like, they are bracing for an avalanche of Nuggets money coming in, but they have, like, you can't get away from the power rating. They're the same reason that
home court that Boston would have.
Yeah.
Yep. So, let me add just really quickly too, just to I've said this before, why Jokic finals MVP and not Denver series, because it's a better price. And I think it's the exact same thing. We just saw Jamal Murray put up 32 points a game on 50, 40, 90 shooting, and Jokic won MVP anyways, unanimously. So just to add that context.
All right. I have to run. I'm going to be 15 minutes late for press conference for the Nuggets because Brandon can't stop talking. We are going to talk to you again we will either have a Game 7 preview this weekend if Game 7 occurs, or we will talk to you again on Monday when we start finals prep for the series. We'll have a series preview, best bets, all of that. We're going to have a props episode next week. We're going to have a full series preview. I'm going to get best bets from all of our contributors. I'm going to try and cram in possibly a long shots episode because you can't get enough of Brandon. So we'll go, and you can't. We got the reviews. I have reviews to back this up. You literally can't get enough of Brandon. So we'll do that next week. Thanks for joining us. My thanks to Sean Little. My thanks to Brandon Anderson. Thanks to David Payne, our producer. We'll see you guys again next weekend. Till then, let's get buckets.